All right, so let's continue. Next step, I actually want to add like a little tuft in the front and kind of an outline of wings. So let's go ahead and do that. Switch back to shaded here. Go to a front view, and we're going to do this basically the same way we did before. So I'm going to lock this in place, and I'm going to draw the shape that I want to use, and I'm going to use curves here. So turn off grid snap if it's on, and just kind of find the shape of the wing. I like that. So do this again. Curve, click to start. I've got ortho on, so I turn ortho off with my shift. You can see it toggling when I shift. Okay, enter. I just want that one curve to come back a little bit into space. And then I'm going to draw a circle. And I'm going to use this endpoint here, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball it the size I want it to be. And then I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to move, enter, because I want to grab this snap point. Click, move over. Okay. And you can see this little intersection here is not going to be good. So I want to trim out that little intersection part here. But not yet. So now I'm going to draw a line from this quad to this quad. And I'm going to trim off the top part. So trim, enter. Click this line, that's your cutting line, enter. And then click that to get rid of that. Okay, click here, delete. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically repeat this shape across all the way, making it nice and symmetrical as I'm doing it. So I'm going to use a new tool called Array. So Array is a really cool tool. You can do it several different ways. It's good for repeating the same form. Imagine you have a fence. Instead of drawing each fence post, you draw one of them, and you use the Array tool to multiply them. So click on the object, select the object to Array. I'm going to select you, enter. And then X direction, I believe this is the X direction. I'm always getting confused, X or Y. I think Y is red, X is red, Y is green. So I'm going to go ahead and just guesstimate 4, enter, Y direction 1, enter, Z direction 1, enter. And then spacing, click here, and then click here to give it a nice even space. Oh, look how close I came to actually getting it nice and perfectly the correct size there. And then once it's done, enter. Let's do that again. So Array, enter. Select the object to Array, enter. Select the number in the X direction, 4, enter. Y direction, because we don't want any going up, 1, enter. And then Z direction, we don't want any coming out towards us, so 1, enter. And then distance, I can use a reference point. So I can go click from here to here. So I'm giving it, the distance is from here to here, so that actually makes sure that everything snaps beautifully onto the other side. Once that's done, still in pink there, so I have to execute the command by hitting enter. Okay. Now what I want to do is actually divide this and then mirror it. And so I did 4, I probably should have just done 3, so I'm going to delete that one. And then I'm going to go ahead and mirror this. Actually, trim the section out first. Trim, use this as a cutting object, and then cut this part out, enter. And I still don't like that, so I hit enter again, and then this time I use this as a cutting object, enter, and I trim out that section, enter. So that gets rid of that little overlap. And then now what I can do is I can grab this and I can mirror it. And I'm going to use my grid snap again, since I got this lined up in the middle still. If you don't, you can kind of just click on this end and do it, and then it'll be a little off center, but you know, it's okay. So this is perfect. If I go from here to here, enter, or click, and then you don't have any overlap here. All right, perhaps I want to move this so that it is perfectly on the grid. So move, enter, click this, And then I'll use my grid snap to find my grid placement. Even up here is fine. And then I'll just lower it back down. Turn off grid snap. Okay. So now I want to kind of make sure that this baseline, so I'm going to draw a line at the bottom here, line from here to there. And I want to make sure that this is below the object. So I'm going to select this whole thing and I can either scale it, just kind of pull it a little bit, which I kind of like that shape. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay. Now I want to join this whole thing together. So it's all one piece, and I'll keep moving it around a little bit. Find that sweet spot. Disable your snaps if you're having issues. And then I'm going to go to a perspective view here, and I'm going to just grab the little circle on my green arrow here and extrude it to about there. All right. So you can see I'm making like a cookie cutter basically, right? So the next step is I actually need to cap this thing off. So click on it and type cap. That should create that. And I might move it a little bit further into the space here, just right about there. Because I'm looking at like this shape here is kind of like a wing, and then this is kind of like the chest feathers. All right, so now we're going to use this kind of cookie cutter. I'm going to take that, put that on our old geometry. It's gone. And then I'm going to go ahead and explode this just so that you can see the inside, so you can see that it's just like a cookie cutter. So explode it, left to right select, join this part back together so we can use this to split. So let's go ahead and split. Oh, first unlock. All right, and then split this object with this object. Enter. All right. Now, old geometry, I'll put that on there. And you can see the shape here, and I'm not sure, this might not work the way I want it to. Just, we'll have to kind of wait and see a little bit here. Okay, so this is split. And next what we want to do is offset that surface. And we're going to do it inward again. So offset surface, enter, click on the surface, enter, flip all so they go inwards. And we're going to do a distance of 1/8. Enter, enter. Okay, well, let's see how that went. The easiest way to see how that went is to explode, boom. Click on the face, delete, click on the face, delete, and look inside. Yeah, it's kind of complicated, but I don't think it's a problem. So let's go ahead now and join it all together with this part. And I mean, I don't know how I feel about the tail area right now, but whatever. We're going to kind of cover that up in a minute anyway, and maybe even hack off part of it. So it's okay. And let's look at it in rendered here. All right, so now the owl needs a mouth. Now there's several ways you can do this, and you can use curves and then kind of create a lofting kind of thing out of the curves, or we can do sub Ds. And I'm going to do both just so you can see the two different types of tool sets. And I can do this, go to a right view here, and draw a line, or a curve. Actually, let's use a control point curve. Lock down the owl again. And go out here, click. and enable the snaps. Okay. And then I can kind of come back in here and just select some of these control points and move things around. Give it the shape I want, select both of these, join them together, and then I'm going to actually pull the whole thing, make it seem to fit a little bit better. Get beaky with it. All right, so now we've got that kind of curved shape here. I want to make it flat, so I'm going to draw a line from this point straight down, just overlapping like that. Trim. Select this object, enter, and trim. And then I can delete this. I don't need that. And then I'm going to actually move this whole thing onto the grid snap here. So I have control over where, because I'm going to draw a circle for like the cross section. You'll see in a second. But I want to make sure that I draw it right on the edge there. So I'm going to turn grid snap on, and I'm going to move this onto the grid. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my front view, and I can see it, but not very well, right? I might need to just go ahead and change the control plane so that I can do this. So let's go to perspective real quick. And I can't draw a circle in perspective the way I want, you know, because it draws it flat. But if I go up to my control, my set view here, I can set my control plane to world front. Boom. And now I've still got perspective. I can rotate around, but I can also draw my shape on the objects. I'm just going to put that line from here to here again and use that midpoint to draw my circle out of. Circle from this midpoint to there. All right. So you can see basically what I'm doing, right? At this point, I've got to make sure everything is lined up right, everything's touching nicely, but I'm going to basically create a shape, and it doesn't have to be a perfect circle like this. Like I can actually select these two ends here and make it more oval shape by selecting those two control points and playing with the scale some. What am I, oh, grid snap, always grid snap. Select that. Select this point and bring it back together. Find a kind of nice shape there. Okay, that's close enough. So now I want to go ahead and create a shape, a 3D shape out of this. So this is all one piece, and we need to use a command called sweep two rails. And right now we've got all one piece here, so we need to explode this so that it's two rails. So it's two rails. Okay. So now we're going to use sweep two. Sweep two, enter. Select the first rail, click, second rail, click, cross section, click, enter twice. All right. And then you've got all of these little settings. I think it all looks just fine the way it is. So I'm going to hit OK. All right. So now we've got that part of the beak. Of course, I don't like the shape of it, but we can change the shape of it. We can just, you know, squeeze it down some, make it smaller, you know, play with that shape a little bit more. Or we can go back up here, select these two objects here, and grab that point and that point. You want to get, oops, this object, left to right select, so you grab both of them here. And I can pull this up. I'm thinking like that pointy kind of line at the top might be nice. So sweep two again, rail, rail, whoops, click, 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 enter, enter. Oh, okay. That's better. And then of course we need a bottom part of the beak as well. And I can go ahead and just hide this, and I can just use this shape, turn it upside down, and then change a little bit of it because I don't want it to be as pointy at the top there. Oops, not like that. Gotta grab both of those, I think. Okay, then let's sweep 2 on this one, rail, rail, cross section, enter, enter. Okay. Bring back our other geometry by right clicking there. All right. And I'm going to scale the whole thing down until I get rid of this overlap. Move this part kind of over to here. Okay, so it's fine that it overlaps like that for right now, because what I'm going to do with this beak is I'm going to cap these 2 shapes since they have flat backs, so they're solids, and then Boolean union them together, and all of the stuff on the inside, all of the funkiness in there will go away when I do that. So Boolean union, all one piece. And so now I've got kind of a beak shape. And I can move it back onto my owl and see how it looks. Old geometry, change object layers. And it's like too big, right? So let's mush it. Maybe even move it back into space here. So that's the sweep 2 rails method. And then of course, there's something else that we've got, which we've talked about before. I'll just put this on this for now, which is sub Ds. So let's go ahead and make it with sub Ds this time. So let's go to a front view, and I'm going to switch to my sub D tool menu here, and I'm going to just grab a cone, sub D cone, kind of put it where I want it to be, and then switch back to perspective. Boom. All right. And then I can just play with this shape some. So with sub Ds, as we know, I can grab faces. So let's just go our face selection tool, select some faces, and pull it down, rotate, okay. And then I'm going to actually crease this edge loop in the top here to give us that bridge, just like we would crease a piece of paper. So I'm going to Control Shift. Actually, first I've got to disable. I've got faces, so I'll switch to edges here. So I can switch to this edge. And if I double click, it'll select that whole edge loop, which doesn't go all the way around, thank goodness. And then I can just crease it. Way easier, right? And I can see which one I like better based on that shape. And then also, of course, like I could come through and really just kind of tweak certain parts of it, pull it down certain sections. I can crease maybe even this section right here around the outside. I grab it. Oh no, wrong one. Double clicking, increase those, and that makes the end a little bit sharper. And it kind of almost mimics the bottom part of the beak already. And then I can just go ahead and, when I'm done with that, clear out all my selection filters. So I can select the whole thing and move it back into our owl shape. See how that looks. Again, play with the scale. And we can choose which one we like better. So sub Ds for this specific beak is a little bit easier, I think, than the sweep two rails, but I do want you to practice both techniques just so that you kind of get a feel for it. All right, let me actually pull this out a little bit more. I'm going to grab maybe this point right here. So I can grab just a vertex as well. Grab that vertice, see what happens when I pull that up. It gives me like a little bit more of a bridge to the nose. All right, cancel out that. Selection filtering, and put it there. And it's not quite in the middle, which is weird, but if I grab this point here, turn my grid snap on, let's see if I can snap it. Front view. There we go. And turn off the grid snap, perspective. Zoom selected to get real close to it. All right, let's look at it in rendered. Okay. I think I like that one better than the other one. So, let's hide this. Standard, hide. Yeah, I think the other one's way better. Okay. I'll just delete the other one. Turn back off this layer stuff. All right. Last thing we need to do is give the owl some feet and talons. And again, you can use your sub D tools, which you can have a lot of fun with, modeling the feet using sub Ds. Or we can do the sweep with two rails. So again, I'll do both. So this time I'm going to go to a top view. And I'm going to draw the feet, just kind of the shape of them using curves. So I'm going to do the toes separately. It's always a good idea to kind of break shapes out into two separate parts. And ensure, let's do one more point. Make sure they connect. This is a part that people always get messed up on. They don't connect these parts. And then come back, I'm going to kind of modify this into a little better foot shape. And owls kind of have fat feet. So let's pull this a little wider here. And then we'll put the toes on the top there. So that gives us our shape this way. And then we can offset that in. Offset curve. Offset is what it's called. Offset. And we'll offset it in by a distance. And so let's do distance. And I'm going to just pick my own distance. And then output, tolerance, trim, yes. So trim should cut those little extra bits off. So make sure trim yes is on. Click, and then you can see it did. It trimmed off those edges. But I don't like that that's straight, so I can still tweak this a little bit, make it more curvy. I don't want these really rigid kind of structures here. But what I can do is I can actually rebuild this, similar to what we did with the surface. So rebuild, enter, and I can lower the amount of points on it and preview it. Let's lower it to 20. 10. Make it really simple. Yeah, there we go. 10's good. Okay, so now I can go back to perspective, and I can pull this up a little bit so I can see it. Z, enter, S, enter, so that I'm focusing on just this object. And move it down some. And I think I'm going to try the loft tool here, see how it works. So loft, this object to this object. Enter. And it's going to go that way. And okay. Let's look at it and shaded. Okay, so now put this on old geometry. But, you know, let's see if I can rebuild. Okay. Points on. And I kind of want to grab like, actually, let's rebuild this again. So instead of 12 vertical, let's do 3. Oops, other way. Rebuild. 3, 12. Okay. Points on. And the reason why I did that is I want to go to a front view here, and I just want to grab this whole middle section. So left to right box right around that middle, and I should, if you look at it, I grab all of it. And then if I shift and scale this out, I can kind of make it softer. And I can kind of pull it up a little bit. Not too high. We don't want to pass that other part. So, cool. And then I can go back to my front view again. Left to right, select these control points here. Back to perspective to have a look. Shift and kind of pull it in. Ooh. Snaps are getting me. All right. I'm good with that. So now, points off. And cap this off. Cap, all nice and closed. All right, so that's kind of a basic form, but I don't really like it that much. So what's really cool is we can also play with the shape of this by converting it into a different kind of object. So let's go ahead and do quad remesh on this. And this is going to allow you to click right here and change this to a sub D. So I can change the target count. If you want to maintain more detail, you can do so. But I'm going to do maybe 50. So it'll simplify it, and we can always undo it and come back if we need to. So change that target. And now we've got a more organic shape that kind of mimics it, but gets rid of these sharp edges that I didn't like. So looks good to me. Delete. Another fun thing is we've got some shapes on the front that I can maybe even just use to pull out like the toe section some. So if I select just these edges, Control-Shift-Click, grabbing on that, I can maybe pull or push in. No, it's not working the way I want. Let's add some more faces to it. Go to Sub-D Tools, and then go to Face Select right here. Click that face, pull it out. Not like that, sorry. Extrude it out. And scale it out. Maybe I need more than one. Yeah, there we go. Kind of like that. Shift click, of course, to add to the selection. 2. And then let's do this last one. Cool. So that gives it kind of like some toes, basically, right? And yeah, you could add like sharper talons or something to it if you wanted to. So if you make like a cone shape. And remember, we're in the front view here. That's why it's still kind of going that way. Deselect all of the selection tools. Pull it like this. Just little cones. We don't want to make it too violent. And then just kind of make sure your snaps are on. Grab it from the mid-vertex there. And kind of put it. Kind of rotate it first a little bit. maybe even, I don't need that one. Grab these faces in the front here. I can kind of pull them down some, rotate them around, kind of give it a little bit. Nothing too violent. And then try to get them lined up. Bring it back over here. Command Shift clicked, grab that edge, kind of tuck it under there, raise it up some, squish it down. The squishy talons are a little less scary. I'm not trying to make my owl scary. A little intimidating, but not too intimidating. Okay, maybe just for the sake of things. And just play, you know, I mean, at this point, you got lumps of clay and you're just kind of moving things around. I'm just going to select the whole thing, move it into kind of position here, and then kind of make it contour a little bit more towards the body so that it's not awkward. And I can group this, just group it together with a group command so that I don't have to worry about losing talons. Control Shift click, I can grab this edge here and I can kind of pull it up so it tucks a little better. And mirror it over. Grid snap. And we'll just keep moving these things around and kind of playing with the shapes. Okay, let's go back to a front view. And then just to make them the same, let's mirror it over. Grid snap. All right, perspective. Right view. Now we're going to go ahead and draw a line and just kind of cut the remainder off of it so that it's flat on the bottom. And this is good for 3D printing purposes and stuff like that. And yeah, you're going to miss a little bit of that talon there, but whatever. We'll just ungroup these and move that up. So now grab both of those at the same time. Disable my snaps. Back to perspective. And you got to make sure you've got it the way you want before that you do this next step. Okay, looks good. So go to the right view and flatten it out by splitting. Actually, first let's Boolean union the whole thing together, sorry. Let's go back to perspective here, just to show you. And we unlock the owl, Boolean union the whole thing together. Cross your fingers. Click, delete. Yes, Control Z brings it back. Okay. Right view and split. This object with this, enter, and that'll get rid of this little bottom part. And we look at it in perspective again. It's all open, but since it's all flat, you should just be able to cap it. Okay. So this is our owl. And let's look at it in rendered. All right. So the next step is to get into the materials and rendering part of the process. And I'm seeing something funky I left behind here. So if I explode this, that surface, unnecessary. Got to have a Hawkeye sometimes. That would actually interrupt the 3D printing process. So there we go. It's all joined back together. Perfect. Watertight, solid. Okay, so now we're ready to get into materials and rendering. We'll do that in the next video.